Grateful for everyone who's here today. Hello. We have a fantastic speaker who has been here, and we've watched her grow. I don't want to blow her anonymity, but we've watched her grow from the beginning, right? And there's been so many positive changes, and I'm sure she'll talk about the most recent one in her share, and it's just going to be a really great share. So, I don't know. I love to see people grow from the beginning because I don't often get to see many people stick and stay. And Becca's the second person I've seen do that. So I'm pretty pumped to hear about this. So I throw it over to Becca. Let's welcome her with some shouts and hoorays, and hand it over to her.
Welcome, Becca.
Hello.
You're gonna help somebody today. We love you.
Yes, we are. Good morning, everyone. All right, so I am a little nervous. This is my first time sharing my story. So I did write down some notes, and I'm just hoping that I can spread some hope for you guys. So first off, I am Becca. I'm an addict or recovering addict and alcoholic. Good morning, everyone. My clean date is October 28th. 2020. I'll be 26 years old next week. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm so grateful to be here today. So I wanted to give a little bit of a background, just so it's easier to understand my story. I came from a really supportive family. However, my biological dad was not in my life. They were police officers, state troopers, very judgmental. My biological father was very abusive. He was not in my life from the start. I have a wonderful mom. She's in the medical field. She's brilliant. She is my rock. Had my back since day one. Very, very grateful for her. And I also have a younger brother and sister who have been there for me as well. And I have, grandparents who are sadly not with us anymore, but I owe so much of this to them. Very grateful. But I'll get to more of that. To start this off, I was 14 years old in high school. That's when I started to experience the worst back pain of my life. I was misdiagnosed by several different doctors. I can't explain the pain that I went through. For years on end. It was years. Sorry, guys. Okay, don't mind me if I get a little nervous, but I'm trying. All right, so this is one of the very big reasons why I'm so grateful for my mom is due to her being in the medical field, she actually had a connection with a doctor. I was 16 years old at the time. He was a rheumatoid arthritis doctor. He almost wouldn't see me because I was not 18. So because they were friends, he actually took me in. And I will never forget, I had the appointment that day, and I went into my little Dunkin' Donuts job, and my mom, came in that night a little frantic. I had a feeling she knew something, but she, explained to my boss and was like, we need to go right now. I got an emergency MRI. I'll never forget it. I was so nervous, had many anxiety attacks. It was actually in the back of a van at a Bacchus walk-in clinic, but that's how soon this needed to be done. It needed to be done ASAP. By the next morning, I was in Children's Hospital being told that I had a massive tumor growing on my spine. Massive. It was growing for years. By the time they found it, they had given me about a week before it would have hit my spinal cord and paralyzed me. Very, 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 by the grace of God, I am walking today. So yeah, I was told about the tumor. By the end of that week, I was in a never done before surgery. It was 17 hours long. There was 4 neurosurgeons. I am in medical journals. It's a miracle. It truly was 1 in a million. So the week after the surgery, that's when I started to learn how to walk all over again. After the surgery, as you can imagine, that's also when the pain meds started. But in the beginning, I had no clue. I had no clue. I didn't understand addiction. I didn't understand what these pain meds were. I didn't understand you could get high. I really only took them as needed. I actually, not even. I took them when I was in excruciating pain and couldn't get out of bed. That is the only time I took a little pain pill. And at 18 years old, so I was carried on with my chronic pain until then. I got a couple of back surgeries in that time. But at 18 years old, I also got together with an addict. I didn't know he was an addict, but he was. He was, and I'm not really going to get into anything with that, just out of respect. I'm sure you guys get it, can imagine. It was very abusive. I funded his habit, basically got taught everything there was to know about addiction. That's how I first got to understand it all. I witnessed it firsthand, getting sick, everything. And I had graduated high school. I was working. At this point, I was working at a group home with mentally disabled. I was going to college for radiology. But there was a lot of pain in this relationship, emotionally, physically, everything. That's when I started drinking. And then about a year and a half later, I actually found out I was pregnant with my daughter, in the same relationship. I didn't find out until I was about 13 weeks pregnant. I, believe it or not, looking back, I'm sure you can believe it. I actually thought that it was hangovers. I was getting sick. I just had no clue. It was the last thing on my mind. I was also on the IUD, so truly the last thing on my mind. So I was pregnant. All the problems continued. I had Addison, and I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. That's when all the problems started. Something also happened in the hospital room, and I ended up bringing Addison home by myself. Me and my mom brought Addison home. So it wasn't a good start from the beginning. It wasn't a good start. And a couple weeks after having my daughter, that is when my grandfather passed away. Most of you have heard me share about my grandmother. This was her husband. They actually both raised me for a good portion of my life. I lived with them. My mom was going to school, and I just preferred to be with them. So that was a little hard to deal with, especially having postpartum on top of it. So the first thing I went and did was go to a safe, and I took his Vicodin. I already had a C-section from having Addison, so I got pain meds from that. And at this point, I was so unhappy. I had a bad relationship. Nothing went as planned. Um, I felt like I needed to take the pills to not only not be in pain, but to be happy or get out of bed. It was already at that point. So especially, this happening, even more so. So quickly it went from the pills, then it went to IV Dilaudid, then it went to heroin. I had my first overdose, and quickly after starting heroin, of course I went straight to IV using, and I had my first overdose, and that's when a lot of my family gave up on me. I shared in the beginning that a lot of them were police officers. They had, their view on addiction, and nothing was going to change that. So half of my family completely disowned me. But they also they called DCF. DCF was already involved because of, because of physical abuse in the hospital room. So they kind of had an idea, and, once that happened, they were in my life. Sorry guys, alarm. So I couldn't get it right. That's when I really felt my life going downhill. It was very, very shortly after that I got my first arrest, and I had just picked up Addison. I had just picked up my daughter from my mom's house. We'll never forget it. Made it like 2 minutes down the road, and there were just cops there. They weren't there for me, but I passed them, and I guess someone that I was with made a complaint, and they just knew to pull me over. Of course, I had stuff in my purse, and that was that. The next day was my first Mother's Day with Addison, and a DCF knocked at my door. They ripped her from my arms, and I mean ripped her from my arms. Like, once that happened, I felt like I had no reason to live. Like, that was it. But it didn't take long to lose my cars, my job, arrested nonstop. I lost my family. I quit college. I was stealing from my family. I was an awful person, a disgusting, awful person. I can't even explain. So, I mean, it continued on. It was 4 years of using, 4 years of hell, so many rehab programs. I did a 6-month jail sentence, and it was for getting a dirty urine. I was an addict, and I did 6 months in jail. I had, and I came out and used. Not even that could help me. Towards the end of my using, I actually went to go to a motel and got drugs. And that's where I got sexually assaulted. And after that, I knew I haven't really been publicly shared much about the experience. I actually just started therapy for it. But after that whole situation, I just knew that something needed to change. I was so close to death. At this point, it was just a matter of when. I'll never forget when my grandmother once said to me after an overdose, she looked at me and she said, "Becca, I held you in my arms as you were turning blue and wondered if I should just let you go so you didn't have to suffer anymore." Who should have to feel that? Who should have to feel that? Sad. I will never forget that. Also towards the end of my using, that's when my grandmother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She was declining very rapidly. I knew something. I knew I needed to do something. I had many regrets from my active using, especially towards my mom and my grandmother. So I just needed to do something. I did everything that I was so against in the past. I went to a program on my own free will, first of all, for 30 days. I also, in the beginning of my recovery, I also started on an MAT program. And the first thing that I did when I discharged from a program was I came right on to this meeting. Came right on to Carpe Diem. This was my first meeting an hour after I discharged. And I've been on here ever since. I just feel like it was meant to be. So right after I came out of the program, I also instantly stepped right into the role of being a caregiver for my grandmother. At this point, she already needed 24/7 care. She was, very, very sad to watch that happen to a family member. And, her only wish was to stay home. She didn't want to go to a nursing home, and, of course, I'm so grateful. I feel every day that God got me clean to be able to take care of her and do what I did. I gave her her last wish. It got very hard. It got very hard taking care of her all by myself at times. 24/7 got very, very hard, but it was worth every single second. And, I kept sharing. If I had hard days, I would share. And, also in this time, I want to also make it known that I was trying to reach out to my daughter as well. Since I got clean, made it a priority to pay the child support, start making changes. Start proving myself in my sobriety. I knew that I couldn't file with the way things were, but I was going to try. But I needed to make sure I also had stability in my sobriety. I took care of my grandmother for as long as she needed it. On October 27th, 2021, that is when she passed away in my arms. For months after that, I relived her last breath over and over and over and over again. This woman was the best woman in my life. I owe her everything that I am, everything that I was, everything that I have. She was just amazing. And honestly, I thought that if anything was going to take me out and back into active using, it would be this. It would be losing my grandmother. I had so much regret, so much shame, so much guilt from the things that I did and the person that I was in active addiction. I couldn't handle it. I found it really hard, and I still do. I still am learning how to cope with loss and just things in general. But I shared and shared and shared. I came onto this meeting, sometimes 2 meetings. I shared until I could not share anymore. That's also when I got my sponsor. I was a little late, getting a sponsor. But luckily I had everyone at this meeting had my back and, talked to me, and they were like, I think it's time. So I followed that suggestion, and I have a great sponsor that's helped me through so many things as well. I just, through this period of time, I put a whole new meaning to no matter what, and do not quit until the miracle. And I wanted to share one more thing too. Also in recovery, I have gotten back surgeries as well. I've gotten 2 back surgeries. So again, putting a hole in the meeting to no matter what. Sorry guys, I totally messed up a little bit. Okay, I missed that part. But yeah, so 3 weeks after my grandmother passing, I allowed my time to grieve, and get a little better, stabilize myself, get my sanity back. That's actually when I filed for visitation at court for my daughter. I was really nervous. I was scared of how she would feel. I hadn't seen her in 3 years, sadly. I had her full time, the first year and a half of her life, basically. Her father had her on her weekends. It was just how it was. Alright, sorry guys, I got a message. So yeah, I was really nervous. She's gonna be 6 years old soon. So I was nervous about how she would react. Also nervous because I know her father did not want me to have anything to do with her. That was very obvious. But I knew that she deserved a mom, and I was going to fight to no end until it happened. This isn't anything that I, would have wanted to happen, and it wouldn't have if it was not an active addiction. She deserves a mom, and I just, like I said, I was going to fight to no end. The first court date, lost a little hope when there was no compliance. Second court date, we went back. We made an appointment. The judge said, you need to make an appointment right now before you leave. And this was for the reunification process with a therapist. The therapist was going to sit down with Addison and explain the whole process to her and basically get her ready to meet me. So this did take a while. Mind you, I am 17 months in recovery. But as of last Sunday, I got to see my daughter again. Well, it was a dream come true. And the first thing that she did was ran up to me and gave me a hug. The first thing she did was ran up to me and gave me a hug. It was just a feeling like no other. I can't even explain. This is exactly what we fight so hard for. Don't quit until the miracle, because that gave me a whole nother reason not to quit. You can't, addiction does not discriminate. Like I said, this is not something I ever would have thought would have happened to me. All my life growing up, never would have thought I would have been an addict. I was totally the black sheep of the family. It's all it takes is one bad situation, one traumatic event, one thing that you cannot cope with. My addiction also started off as fun. It started off as drinking, and it ended like how it ended. So I'm so grateful for all the gifts that recovery has brought to me in my life. Today I have an amazing job. I live in my grandmother's house. Very, very grateful for that. And I'm making everyone proud. I'm doing my best to make up for the mistakes that I made in active addiction. I cannot change the past, but I can change what I do right now. I'll have chronic pain the rest of my life. It's how I cope with it. There's definitely going to be problems that come my way, but no matter what problems I run into today, I'm so grateful that they are my problems, because I would have given anything for them to be my problems in active addiction. I just, looking back at how I lived and active addiction, it disgusts me. It really does disgust me. There's no lower low than that. But you know, my biggest gratitude for recovery had to have been, you know, being able to be there for my grandmother. That was the biggest gift because she really needed me. And, you know, I was able to return the love that she had given to me for all my 25 plus years. You know, she funded my addiction. No matter what awful things I did, that woman loved me more than anything in the world. Always had my back, never gave up on me. You know, sometimes I really think I didn't deserve that, you know. Just complete unconditional love from, you know, my mom and my grandmother, my family. I'm very grateful for those that didn't leave my side and who allowed me to grow. This is just amazing. This is really the gifts of recovery, and you know, I don't quit until the miracle. This is possible. And yeah, so I think I'm done. I hope I gave you guys a really good story. And I guess the topic, if I get to pick the topic, it would be the gifts of recovery.
Thanks, Becca.
Becca. That was awesome.
Thanks, Becca.